Jin-Woo froze as the next notification appeared before him. His newly assigned profession was necromancer. He stared at the words in disbelief, his eyes wide and his mouth slightly open in horror. He didn't know how to react. This was nothing like what he had expected. Panic began to rise within him. His thoughts spiraled in every direction, unsure of what to make of this outcome. He had never invested in intelligence stats, not once. So why had he been assigned a magic-based class? Why this class? His mind raced. A necromancer, traditionally a dark mage, one who commanded the dead, wasn't a profession he had ever imagined for himself. According to the description, his subclass gave him control over an army of undead, each one loyal to his commands, following him without question, bound to his will. Jin-Woo couldn't recall hearing of any necromancers among the hunters in real life. But in games, they were always the ones who stood back, letting their minions fight in their place, rarely engaging in direct combat themselves. That wasn't his style. That wasn't who he thought he was, and yet, here he was. Jin-Woo recalled that ever since registering with the guild, he had been recognized as a combat-type hunter. He had always fought on the front lines, relying on weapons and physical strength. So why then had he been assigned this particular class? Trying to calm himself, he decided to search for the potential benefits of necromancy. Maybe there was an advantage to this path. After all, the idea of building an army that would follow him without question had its appeal. But almost immediately he considered the limitations. If his undead subordinates couldn't grow stronger, then over time his personal stats might become irrelevant. His power would stagnate. As he stood there torn between frustration and confusion, a new notification appeared before him. Will you accept this class? He stared at the message, wondering if he even had a choice in the matter. Quietly he hoped, just maybe, that rejecting the offer might unlock other class options. With that thought in mind, he voiced his decision aloud. No, he said, refusing the class, hoping that a different path still remained. Jin-Woo recalled that hunters with unique abilities were highly sought after. They often worked for powerful guilds and held considerable influence. Their strength, prestige, and access to resources far exceeded that of ordinary hunters. As he stood there thinking, a new possibility stirred in his mind. Perhaps, he thought, because of this hidden class, I'll also gain a unique ability, something like the elite hunters from the major guilds. The idea sparked a glimmer of cautious hope within him. Jin-Woo raised his bandaged hand to his face, staring at it for a moment. He realized he didn't need to overthink it. Perhaps taking the necromancer class just to try it out wasn't such a bad idea after all. Still, he stood there quietly processing everything that had happened. As his eyes wandered across the battlefield littered with the corpses of knights and mages, something caught his attention. He leaned closer, focusing on one of the fallen mages. Something about them felt familiar, as if they had wielded an ability similar to necromancy. A strange thought crept into his mind. Was someone trying to show me how to use this class? He hesitated, caught between doubt and curiosity. Then the realization struck him. Unlike most mages, he had combat skills, raw physical strength, and weapon mastery that most spellcasters lacked. But what if he thought a mage could also fight in close combat? What would that make me? A hybrid unlike any other. It all began to make sense. With the abilities he now possessed, Jin-Woo could potentially clear a B-rank dungeon or even higher alone. He understood that in this strange game-like system, everything was tied to stats, levels, and skills, and even the summoned creatures could grow stronger. Finally, he saw the truth. This profession wasn't a limitation, it was a path forward, one where he didn't have to fight alone anymore. For the first time, Jin-Woo began to understand what it meant to command not just strength but a force. And with that, he made his decision, fully consciously and without regret. Finally, Jin-Woo made his decision. He would continue forward side by side with this class. He would embrace it. As soon as the choice was confirmed, a new alert appeared, followed by another. Due to the large number of accumulated points, Jin-Woo was now able to elevate the class to its highest level. The room around him slowly began to fill with thick black smoke curling up from the ground like mist from some ancient realm. Notifications appeared one after another, stating that points had been allocated and the return stone remained unused. Then came another message, one that made him pause. Point total exceeded class limit. The black smoke, now swirling with greater intensity, began to approach him. Jin-Woo tensed, instinctively wary. There was something unnatural about it, and black smoke had never been a symbol of safety. He braced himself, expecting something dreadful, but to his surprise, the smoke carried no ill intent. Instead, it gently enveloped his body, wrapping around him in a dense, pulsing cloud. A new alert appeared. His class had evolved. He had ascended to Shadow Lord. Nervous and still processing what was happening, Jin-Woo could hardly believe the surge of power coursing through him. He had not only accepted the necromancer path, he had taken it to its absolute peak. More alerts followed. An exclusive class ability has been acquired. All base characteristics have been enhanced. He was stronger now, much stronger. Jin-Woo was stunned by the sudden surge of power. The boost was immediate and overwhelming, clearly the result of the massive number of points he had accumulated throughout his journey. In an instant, he had become a formidable warrior. He could feel it, how far he had come. From starting as a common warrior, his progression had elevated him through the ranks, to berserker, then to a standard knight, and from there to something greater, the greatest sword master he had ever imagined. But it didn't stop there. He sensed another path awakening within him. The path of magic. From the class of ordinary mages he rose to higher mage and then beyond that to a powerful wizard capable of bending magic to his will. And then came the class that had once filled him with hesitation, necromancer. But now fully embraced it transformed again into something transcendent. Jin-Woo had become the Lord of Shadows. Jin-Woo began to understand that if he hadn't accumulated such a large amount of points, he might have remained a typical necromancer, nothing more. But now something far greater had been unlocked within him. As he looked around the battlefield, he started to hear them, faint cries of pain and despair echoing from the fallen warriors and knights' voices of the dead who had once fought with pride and rage. Above several of the still bodies, glowing notifications slowly began to appear, signaling that shadow summoning was now possible. It all started to make sense. The key to this new power lay in the abilities of the necromancer class. Unlike what he once believed, this profession wasn't simple. It was layered, complex, and commanding. Jin-Woo realized that shadow extraction was the core of his new skill set, allowing him to transform corpses into loyal summoned creatures. And because the necromancer class was inherently one of leadership, it was designed to control an army. Soon a system prompt appeared before him asking him to select a keyword, a command phrase to awaken the shadows. He paused, considering the weight of this moment. His gaze turned serious. He knew this wasn't just a phrase, it was something that would define him. After a brief silence he chose it, rise. The word was short, powerful, and final. The moment his voice echoed, black smoke began to swirl around the broken armor and lifeless bodies of the knights. From one of them a gauntlet twitched, then a hand reached out from within the ruined shell of armor, pulling itself free. At his command, a jet-black figure with a glowing blue gaze emerged and lowered itself into a bow before him. The sight took Jin-Woo by surprise. He wasn't used to this, not to teamwork, not to leading, but there was something compelling in it, something powerful. For the first time he wasn't fighting alone, and it was only the beginning. He quickly realized that all of the fallen around him could now be turned into summoned beings. For the moment they were of normal rank, but even that made them useful. Among them were not just ordinary knights but elite units, shadow mages, rising beside him in silent obedience. After a quick count, Jin-Woo concluded he had summoned 27 knights and 3 mages, reaching his maximum of 30 subordinates. But then his gaze shifted, drawn to someone sitting against a distant wall apart from the rest. It was Igris. The presence of Igris made him pause. His squad now included 2 A-rank shadows, both radiating unique and powerful abilities. It was far beyond what he had imagined, but there was still more to consider. Jin-Woo wondered what would happen if I extracted the shadow of an A or S-rank hunter. The strength such a subordinate could offer would be immeasurable. Watching his shadows quietly form a line before him, Jin-Woo slowly raised his fist and tapped one of them gently. He spoke calmly, acknowledging that he had summoned some in a rush and now needed to make room for stronger allies. He apologized softly to the 11 weakest shadows and with a thought released them. In the next moment the 11 vanished into black mist, gone forever, unable to return. Jin-Woo turned his head toward a specific direction, his eyes locking onto a figure that still held great significance to him, the Blood-Red warlord Igris. A powerful unit, perhaps the strongest he'd seen so far, and now he wanted him to serve. Without hesitation and unwilling to waste time lingering in doubt, Jin-Woo decided to try his luck. With a sharp breath and a steady voice he gave the command, rise. The word echoed like a challenge. Seconds after the command left his lips, black smoke began to spill from Igris's crimson-drenched body. Slowly it twisted and coiled, trying to take shape, beginning to manifest as a shadow. Jin-Woo's heart skipped a beat. It's working, he thought, convinced he had succeeded in claiming this formidable being. But just as that confidence began to settle, a violent resistance erupted. A gust of wind burst from the crimson armor as the forming shadow fought back. Jin-Woo instinctively raised his arms to shield his face, bracing against the fierce torrent of pressure that came with the backlash. The black smoke swirled violently before him, impossible to stabilize. Then the system notification appeared: shadow extraction failed. Jin-Woo stood still for a moment, staring at the message, his breathing steady but inwardly disappointed. Why didn't it work? He asked himself, mind racing. The system reminded him he had 2 attempts left. It's not that easy, he muttered, eyes narrowing. He understood now that time played a role. It had already been nearly 4 hours since the boss's death. The longer he waited, the less likely the extraction would succeed. Still, he wasn't giving up, not yet. They said Jin-Woo had 2 more attempts at summoning the shadow of the boss in question. He would try to do what he wanted, voicing his command to rise. Jin-Woo's key expression, they observed, was followed by the same reaction from the warlord, not allowing him to take another shadow. Jin-Woo then shifted his gaze towards the throne, which was empty, no king or queen sitting on it, and there was no one in charge here in this place. They said he pointed his hand toward the empty throne, saying to stop defending this place whose owner had long since left this world. He was still gesturing with his bandaged hand, also vocalizing that the warlord had better follow whoever was now standing in front of him. Then the man thrust his bandaged hand toward the bloody warlord and tried one last time, ordering him to rise. They noted that the key expression was followed by some kind of reaction, already quite different, as a flash appeared and black smoke enveloped the space. Jin-Woo felt this was a different reaction and response to his order. He began to smile, realizing that the knight had decided to follow him. They said he watched as whoever was in front of him began to appear. He smiled, addressing the shadow quite formally. Then he looked down at his subordinate, changed his expression, and realized it was ridiculous and even kind of tedious wanting to change the nickname. They said he watched as the stranger's shadowy hand with sharp claws appeared before him in all its glory. He tried to think of a way to address him. Jin-Woo briefly pondered and decided to name this subordinate simply Igris, considering what he was like in his guise in front of him. He appeared to have quite a strong subordinate of high rank. Now he could be called Igris, and the most important thing was that this shadow was in his command. They said Jin-Woo looked at his subordinate with eyes glowing blue light and told him to let this shadow take care of him.